Welcome, bienvenidos, yokoso, bienvenue, welcome to this week's episode of Implicit Bias. Yes, I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon, and I am here to offer you a hospitable invitation to see us in the top secret podcast lair. We're not just on your radio, we're not just in the audio podcast. Go find us on X, on Facebook, on YouTube. You can see us now, in the TSPL, the warm, cozy, top secret podcast lair. You are actually welcome here. You're invited here. It's really not that big of an area, but we do want you to join us, at least sip on your own weekly whiskey while we solve the problems of the world as best as we can. But that actually got us thinking, really thinking in the TSPL. The crew, if you really think about it, we're truly hospitable. But what exactly does that mean, to be truly hospitable? Let's start with the actual definition of the word. From the Oxford Dictionary, hospitable, friendly and welcoming to strangers or guests, or pleasant and favorable for living. The first part is the really, really important part. Friendly and welcoming to strangers. So let's start there. Strangers. Why strangers? Why not everybody? Well, if you think about it, hospitality is only really about strangers. It's not about our friends, and it's not about our allies. Let me tell you a quick story. So tradition in high school football logistics is as follows. If you are broadcasting the game for the away team, you're supposed to call and ask for permission to call the game from the home team. Now, for the hosting team, it's typically a formality, because when the home team is then away, that switch happens in the next year, and everyone hopes for the same hospitality. It means hosting your opponent's broadcasters. It means hosting your opponent's coaches. It means hosting your opponent's statisticians. Unfortunately, that foregone conclusion is not always the case. Sometimes hosts from certain schools are actually inhospitable. Now, I'm not going to name any names. It's no secret, though, that I really thoroughly enjoy calling high school football. And me and my broadcast partner had to go to an away game, and we were told by the very nice people, perhaps the largest press box in the entire geography, we were told was full on the home side. So we were relegated to a very small press box on the visitor side. No worries, we are actually very thankful for what we are allowed to do. Only one thing. So the coaches for the away team, the coaches for the team that we call football for, they were also kicked out of the home press box, told it was full. Funny, did you know that a football field is only 53 yards wide? And that by the time you factor in stands and all the other stuff, call it 100 yards from one press box to another. And what do you know? The home side press box was completely visible from the visitor side press box. And what do you know? The home side press box was half empty. And look, there was some hospitality to at least let us call the game, to give us a place to call it from. But can you guess what the 7 people crammed into the small press box on the visitor's side left thinking about their hosts? Yeah, you got it. Those people left not thinking very much about the people who were hosting them. They didn't get a ton of hospitality. And that's why hospitality is supposed to be for our guests. Not just strangers, right? Not just the people that we know, right? It's supposed to be for people that we don't know. It's supposed to be people for our opponents, for our enemies. Yes. Why? Because if we really want to change the way that our opponents or our enemies think and convert them to our friends, we can't enter into any conversation, a competition, a dinner, a lunch, a meeting where we're holding back what we could potentially offer the other person. And this is what's so important. We're told this in Luke 14:12 through 14. Then Jesus said to his host, "When you give a luncheon or dinner, do not invite your friends, your brothers or sisters, your relatives, or your rich neighbors. If you do, that they may invite you back, and so you will be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, you will be repaid at the resurrection of righteousness. See, it's not about getting paid back. It's about getting blessed and about being righteous. It's about doing what's right, not what's easy. It's not easy to roll out the red carpet for people you don't know or even like, but it's the right thing to do. It's not easy to be giving of yourself, your time, your talent, your treasure, but it's the right thing to do. So that's what we're going to do, well, at least attempt to do on this week's episode of Implicit Bias. We're going to solve the problems of the world. We're also going to try to give you the other side of the stories we cover. We're going to try and poke holes in those stories. We're going to try and flip the script a bit. Some of it, we can't. But with those stories, we'll have fun. We'll laugh. We'll make our intern cry. We'll try to make sure that we don't just welcome you in, but we'll also do everything we can to be hospitable to anybody on the other side. We'd love to welcome them in. Because if we can get it all out in the open, if we can put everything on the table, maybe, just maybe, we can all share a weekly whiskey. And in the process of that, we'll get to our and your implicit bias. It is Implicit Bias back on the air. Are we, by the way, Aaron, we good on video? Because Walker just kind of started. Walker apparently is just off tonight, for those who don't know. Let's see, we're starting this, How far behind are we, Caleb, this week?
Well, if we go by my watch, I'll call this an hour and 45 minutes. It's not accurate. It's more along an hour.
It's closer to being an hour behind as we are here in the Top Secret Podcast layer. Finally getting underway. We got the monologue done. We got all this done because the Implicit Bias Pledge, who now really is better off dead. Trust me when I say that. I mean, that's his nickname too. Anyway, welcome into Implicit Bias. We're glad to be with you finally back on video, as I've now gotten my schedules right, because y'all know I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to tell you the good, the bad, the ugly. We wanted to do video last week, but Kavan jacked up the scheduling. So we didn't have video last week.
I thought we agreed we're going to blame that on Aaron.
No, we can't. No. We're going to accept this. If we're going to blame that on anybody, it's Walker's fault. Anyway.
It all depends who was supposed to be on or who was on last week.
So last week it was me, Caleb, Kathleen, and Lewis. Correct.
Okay. That could have been good on video then.
Yeah. And it's all Walker's fault. All right. So let's dive into our weekly whiskey for our weekly whiskey segment, because this one is going to be fantastic. But before we do, let me introduce you to the crew that we have here in the Top Secret Podcast layer. You've already met a couple of them. He is the man, the myth, the legend, more myth than anything. He is Caleb Morse, the Rustic Renegade. Caleb, it's great to have you back this week.
Always a pleasure.
And I know you're excited about this particular weekly whiskey.
I am. When I saw the bottle, I perked up because I've heard about it. I haven't seen one in the wild yet. And when I saw it, I was like, how's it taste? How is it? I'm so thankful that I was able to try this tonight.
I am thrilled that this is what is our offering from our Weekly Whiskey Network partner, New News here in Lafayette. Absolutely fantastic offering. Ghostwood, we're going to talk about it. Let me tell you who's at the bar, because at the bar, we have our buddy K&B. Not just like the purple and white K&B for our New Orleans brethren. He is from Kennebra. He is Grant Galatas of William S. Nacol Jewelers.
Fantastic to be here again. I love the bottle. The presentation, that's a nice looking bottle.
Yeah, apparently you love the bottle because you're on like your fifth pour already, right?
Well, that's because we're like 2.5 hours late.
Yeah, that's again, Walker's fault. All Walker's fault.
Good to be here.
Absolutely is. Thank you, Walker.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Walker, for making this happen.
You
thank
did.
you.
Hey, no problem. But if I didn't show up, this wouldn't be happening.
You did this.
True.
We'd have to get a second bottle.
But it's because of when you showed up that it's happening this way. Speaking of the bar, we also have Sage Bro from USCCA, which is an absolutely fantastic company. We might actually spend a little time talking about concealed carry and those things that you really have to have if you're going to do it. But it's been a while since you've been with us, Sage. Like, it's been a long time.
It has.
It's been a
the
year.
Halloween show.
Ooh, yeah.
I want to say when I dressed like my dad.
That was 2 years
that's
ago.
you now.
Yeah, that was
me.
2
Definitely
years
me
ago.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, so you're yourself and you're your dad, which means you're what, from Arkansas? Anyway, let's dive into our weekly whiskey. Don't laugh, Walker. You resemble that comment. Oh. All right. So here we go. Let's talk about Ghostwood. This one comes in at what, 90 proof, Caleb?
90 proof, yep.
So 45% alcohol by volume. Let's start at the bar. I'm curious, and whoever wants to go first, Grant, the microphone's pointing your way. What do you think about this offering from Ghostwood? This is actually a distillery, as we get into this, that almost went south. They almost went bye-bye. They almost turned into Kaiser Soze. They almost just became a ghost because of COVID. But they managed to make it through. They managed to stay afloat, and we're thrilled to have them back now in Louisiana and see them on shelf. So what are your thoughts on this offering?
Well, it's a good thing they stayed afloat. That's a really good product. I love that it's 90 proof. Since we're starting a little bit late, if I was on glass 3, I'd be headed out the door on my way home and not knowing why.
And you wouldn't have told anybody either. You'd have just said, I got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
it would have been like, where's Grant?
The Irish goodbye, baby.
Yes.
This is it's 90 proof again, so it's very light. I talked about it earlier off mic that it's very light and it tastes very light. It's kind of oaky. It's got a good little oaky taste to it. Not a lot of legs. It doesn't hang around on the palate for too long, leave too many flavors. But it's light. It's 90 proof, so it's a pleasant little drink.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you, especially when you say it's light.
Right.
Because you do get some of those flavors, but it doesn't have that deep, dark offering that you like with a lot of bourbon.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily have that caramel bomb that a lot of people are looking for.
Right.
But the flavors are very pleasurable at 90 proof.
Oaky and earthy.
Yeah. Oaky and earthy, I think, is a really good description.
Yeah. It's good. Good
Okay.
little drink.
All right. Walker, you've got a glass. What do you think? Don't care. Anyway. Go ahead, Walker.
Refreshing. It's very smooth. Doesn't hit. It doesn't burn. Doesn't hit the palate hard or anything. This is something that I would definitely. This is a. Well, we haven't gone there, so I won't say it. But this is something I would definitely go buy.
Okay. All right. I actually like that thought process. Is this something that I might put on the table? Is this something that there's an offering for? Yeah, I actually do like that. All right. Let's go back to the bar. Let's go to Sage.
I am very happy, since we've been sitting behind the bar for a while, waiting on Walker, that it was a little lighter. Again, it doesn't hit the palate hard. I get earthy as well. It's very smooth.
Very smooth. Okay. All right. Let's go to our the descriptor, right? If there was like a bad name for Caleb, like Destructor, like Gozer the Destroyer, we would call him Descriptor because he finds these descriptions. And I've actually got like a almost Caleb Morse description for this, but I'm going to let you go first, Caleb, and we're going to see where this chimes in.
Well, thank you. On the nose, I get toffee and honey. Like, that's what I get. I don't get much oak, much smoke, much anything on the nose, but toffee and honey. And then on the palate, toffee, candied almonds. I got candied almonds, raw sugar, and then this got me. There was years ago. This is one of those things too. Years ago, I was overseas and I had what they call berry honey or Sind honey or Sid honey. I don't remember how it goes. And it's this honey that's grown, that's harvested in the top of the Himalayas, and the bees and all that up there is mainly.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. Honey harvested in the top of the Himalayas with bees who only flurry about for 3 weeks a year because of the cold.
And it's mainly off of like fruit bearing or berry bearing bushes. So it has a hint of berry to it because it's a hint. It's not much. It's a hint. And man, it's so damn good. But it finishes like a dry wine.
You get a little whiny with it. I do agree.
It's a little whiny, but it's crisp and clean on the finish. It's pretty impressive, especially when you think this comes out of Bozeman, Montana, which is not where you would expect to find a good bourbon from. And man, it's very, very nice. The name, the Ghostwood, goes from sitting around a campfire and telling ghost stories with your friends. And then supposedly up there, they carve your story into the ghost wood, whichever the hell that is. I don't know what that is, but I know what this is, and this is good stuff.
Okay, so I get the honey, I get the whiny, absolutely. This to me, it's light on the palate. It doesn't have long legs, but what's interesting is the finish is longer than you expect. So it hits the palate, it hits light, it hits crisp, it hits refreshing, like Walker said, and you think, man, it's probably not going to hang around for a while. But it does hang around for a while on the palate. What I get from this is a summer wheat field. That is what I get from this. Like, this to me is when it hits the palate, that is the feeling that just overtakes the system, which is sitting in a wheat field or walking through a wheat field in the summer, that bright nose that you get, not just on the whiskey, but from the wheat field, and then that weedy taste to it. This is a blend. I don't know that it's a wheated.
It's a 4 grain. I don't know what it is, but is it like whenever you're watching Dances with Wolves and Kevin Costner goes out there in that field and he's like,
There it is. There it is. See, I told you.
Yeah.
There it is. How does he go?
Tatanka.
Yeah, that's what I thought. No,
Everyone knows that scene.
That's pretty much exactly what I get with this, which is really interesting because I wouldn't necessarily have expected it, but coming out of Montana, it almost, to me, echoes what you expect with the topography up there. That crisp, clean flavor that you get with the crisp, clean air, pristine. It almost has a purified quality about it.
I think we need to go hunting is what it is.
Oh, that would not upset me one bit, especially to go hunting up there in Montana with, a couple cases of this for a night. And that would make for an interesting hunt the next morning.
Follow-up question.
Yeah, sure.
Caleb, did you get toffee on the nose or on the palate?
The nose and the palate.
Okay, because I like to look at the descriptions online to see how good y'all are at this, and it
Okay.
never ceases to amaze me because they did mention this the toffee and spice, wood, nutty, slightly buttery, and earthy.
Earthy to me is what this really brings out.
Hence the wheat field.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Dances
See,
with
I'm not
Wolves. Kevin Costner and Socks the Wolf. And, yeah,
I'm not getting
I didn't
a lot
get that
of,
far.
I'm not getting
and
a lot
wait,
of buttery on it. but maybe-
Tatanka.
Yeah. Like everyone knows that line. You know that part.
Oh,
of the
yeah.
No,
movie,
actually, I didn't know that line. I don't
Really?
I don't remember. Of all the movie references that I do know, that is not one that I'm just like,
Like
Well, you remember it now because it was the buffalo.
Yeah, he's
the
like
sign for
Tatanka. He
buffalo.
did
no,
like this.
I'll just remember
Yeah.
it because of Caleb.
The two big lines, the two big things to call out from that movie are Tatanka and
Yeah.
good trade.
Good. Yeah, but spot on. I don't know how you pulled toffee out of that because
I get
again,
it,
I'm surface taste with this. I can get buttery. I can get kind of caramelly, a little bit earthy, and oak because they do say oak as well. So I was able to pull a little bit of the oak but no, there was no way I was grabbing toffee out of that.
I get
So nicely done.
I actually get spicy more than toffee, but I do see.
little
To me, it's a
spice.
light toffee. It's not like a score bar.
No, it's definitely it's hints of flavors. It's not in your face.
No.
It's not aggressive. This is gentle. It's an easy drinker. You could drink this year round. But I agree, this is a summer beverage. Like this time of year where we're transitioning from hot summer to not as hot summer. So hunting season's about to start. This is the perfect time for this down here.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. This hits. And you could actually drink this over the summer when it's hot as well. It's got that light, crisp flavor to it. So I'm absolutely with you. Okay, we're going to play What Would You Pay in an ensuing segment. And again, I'll be transparent. It's because I left the receipt in the bag and the bag is over there. So we'll get that in a few minutes. But here's what we're going to do. We are going to rate this on the Morse Whiskey Rating Code as Caleb takes notes in the Implicit Bias Whiskey Tasting Journal, which you can find on Amazon. Just search Implicit Bias Whiskey Tasting Journal. Not hard to find. And you can get, well, you can't get our notes, but you get the full tasting wheel. You get the full way to document your journey of whiskey tasting. So let's go ahead and start, Walker, with you. Where would you rate this on the Morse Whiskey Rating Code? And for the uninitiated in New Orleans, Monroe, Vidalia, Natchez, Mississippi, all the way into Ruston and Shreveport, this is the Morse Whiskey Rating Code. Red, I wouldn't drink it even if it was free. Yellow, I would only drink it if it was free. Green, I would buy this. Or blue, I would seek this out. So, Walker, let's start with you. Red, yellow, green, or blue?
I'm going to give it a blue. I really enjoyed it.
Wow.
I really did enjoy it.
That is high praise.
I'm 100% giving it a blue.
Okay. Let's go to the bar. Let's start with Grant.
Wait, we're gonna do what would you pay later?
We're going to what would you pay
sorry.
later? Yeah, you missed when I explained
Pay
that.
attention, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to green this.
Okay, giving it a green.
Yeah, it's for me. It's looking for that wow factor. I guess it's just a lower proof. I enjoy the little bit higher proof, 110 proof and stuff. And so,
Ooh, what happened there? Now all of a sudden, Grant Galatas is drinking with the big boys at the big boy table.
it was bound to happen.
We
sooner or
love
later.
it. We love it. We're turning you to a proof hound like the rest of us here in the Top Secret Podcast lair.
But there's just something about blues that that hits you just a little bit harder than this, and it's a good solid green for me.
Okay. Sage, what about you?
You knowing that I don't necessarily drink a whole bunch of whiskey. This is a blue for me too. I love the bottle. It tastes fantastic. It's I don't know. I'm going to go find this after the show. So,
okay.
yeah.
That's really, really interesting. All right, Caleb, we'll go to you.
This is a solid green for me. Like it's a wonderful drinker. It just doesn't have that wow factor for me. The flavors are pleasant. The aroma's pleasant. I mean, I'm on my 4th or 5th glass now, I think, at this point in time. So it's going down really smoothly and easily. But to me, it's a green. A green.
Okay. To you, it's a green. To me, it's absolutely a green. I've got and normally I'm the one who's maybe enjoying it a little too much. Normally I'm the one who's going to overemphasize the flavors just because that's my nature. But this one for me, a straight up green. I agree with Grant in that the proof isn't quite there. The depth of flavor isn't quite there for me. And on top of that, I'm one of those guys that likes that big caramel. I like that aggression that you like. And it's not quite there at a 90 proof. Now, we've got multiple extensions of this particular whiskey this month. So you never know what one of the others might do here on Implicit Bias. But officially, as the rating goes, and Aaron, I know Aaron's not even on camera. Nobody knows Aaron's here because Aaron's the guy that takes care of video. He doesn't even have a microphone. He's just sitting in the back, but guess what he does have? He's got a glass of whiskey. I'm curious. Red, yellow, green, blue. Not that it matters. Green. Yeah, he's with the rest of us. He gives it a green. And look, I'm not lying. We're going to show you a picture on social media of Aaron sitting in the back of the room because just so you know, we're not lying that he's here. But yes, so we've got green. It is for this particular whiskey. Love that it's there. And look, we are going to be completely hospitable. If you like it, if you don't like it, we want you here with us sampling weekly whiskey. We're going to play What Would You Pay? And we're going to start diving into the stories that really make a big difference this week because, man, Thursday, the day that we record this show, is the gift that keeps on giving. News breaking while it's happening, which is relevant to you and to all those you are hospitable to. When we come back with more Implicit Bias. Welcome back to Implicit Bias as we are hospitably welcoming you back into the Top Secret Podcast layer. I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon, as we bring you hour 1 of this week's episode. Man, we are hoping to bring you an absolutely fantastic time in the TSPL presented to you by Mr. Lester Steakhouse. Let me introduce you to the crew. Across from me, sitting in the lone chair, he is the rustic renegade, Caleb Morse. At the bar, we have Grant Galatas, otherwise known as K&B, and we have Sage Bro of USCCA, which we'll talk about why that's important in just a few minutes. We're going to dive into the story, the gift that keeps on giving on this particular Thursday, because we want to be hospitable to you, because guess what? Ain't no party like a Diddy party. And apparently that is what has been going on. And man, that story, it is hospitable because he apparently welcomed everybody in.
That was well said. That was a good lead in.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Although I don't know if it was good or if he's just sick.
I mean, it's not good for us. It's sick as all get out. And I like how you said he welcomed everybody because there is an eclectic blend of people that were invited.
Allegedly.
That were invited. And I'm curious if they were invited or if they were like, yo, Diddy.
They might have been.
You like that?
That is the laugh of the Implicit Bias pledge. He's better off dead. And we'll just leave it at that. Walker Griffon is here with us. You heard his laugh in the background. Okay, so let's start here. Because an alleged list of people in diddler videos has hit the internet. It's out there. It's on X. I don't know.
It's probably on Triple X too.
It might be. That's very well played. But yeah, ring the bell. That's well played. We're not going to touch on those names. What I will say is this. It is everyone that we have previously hypothesized here in the Top Secret Podcast layer that would be there.
I was surprised by a couple of those names.
I was surprised by a couple as well. But
the vast majority of them, like, you can look at that person and tell that they don't think the same way we think.
Well, let's be honest. When you're on the internet saying ain't no party like a Diddy party, guess what? You're probably on the Diddy list.
There's a
Just
good
saying.
chance. Good chance.
Just saying. Yeah, that name's there. What I believe is perhaps more giving with regards to this, and please go look this up. We'll maybe try and drop in the headline as we link this. Man, there is an attorney out of Texas who apparently is running a class action lawsuit for not 5 people, not 10 people. I mean, I would think 20 to 25 people might be a lot. Yeah, it's not close. I mean, if we're talking 50 to 75 people, I mean, really? Try 120 people. 120 people. That is past the century mark. And here's the bigger concern for me, is that the allegation by this attorney who said he will leak names, they are ready to release names, is twofold. Number one, they are going to sue more than just Diddy. They are going to sue banks. They are going to sue corporate entities. They are going after big names. So it's not just the P. Dangler that's going to be on this particular class action lawsuit. The second part is he's alleging that some people who are part of this, that were victims of Puff Daddy, whatever he calls himself, were as young as 9 when this happened. So I'm curious as to thoughts here. Does this surprise anyone?
It doesn't surprise me, but it still pains me to hear it, and as Christians, as followers of Christ, and as lovers of God, we're supposed to be forgiving. Man, it's really hard to forgive somebody who hurts an innocent child. It's really hard to forgive somebody that ruins and scars a soul like that for eternity. It's, that's a tough one.
Let's go to the bar. Thoughts?
How do you live with yourself at this point? I mean, you have a lot of people who went into this knowingly and willingly, and they participated. They knew of it. Anyone for, what is it, 2 decades? Close to that this is going on?
2.
Okay.
I mean, you got to think. So what? Tupac and Biggie hit in the 90s.
Yeah, let's put it this way.
Puff Daddy
way
was
long.
known as a big guy in the early 90s. We're talking 30 years.
But if you know the depths of this depravity, and you know there are children involved in this, and you go and you live your comfortable lifestyle, and you leave a party like this, and you just allow this to go on for as long as it did without bringing it to someone's attention, for whatever reason, out of fear of being blacklisted, out of fear of being canceled, whatever your rationale is for this, there were so many people who knew that this was going on, and you finally wait until law enforcement steps in before you say, oh yeah, this was tragic.
So
it's because now they're trying to strike a deal. That's all it is.
Well, and I think
But
maybe
so many people knew this. So you're just as complicit. If you knew this travesty of humanity was going on and you said not a word, shame on you. That's between you and God.
So
He'll
complicit,
take care of it for us.
Complicit, I think, is a whole nother part of this, because we were talking about Cat Williams, and Cat Williams has made he has made no bones about what he has been offered, pun intended. Apparently, he was offered $50 million. He claims 4 times,
several times,
to go hang with the puffy Diddy, right?
I don't think Diddy wanted to hang. I think he wanted
Well,
to die.
yeah. Well, you never know.
Yeah, I don't
you
know.
never know. Asphyxiation's a thing for some people. I'm just saying. My point is, he claims he was offered $50 million 4 times. And we were making the joke about, man, what would you do if you were offered $50 million? There's a lot of people who do a lot of things for $50 million. But here's the problem. The problem isn't what would you do for $50 million. The problem is, what would they have video of you doing for $50 million? Now, all of a sudden, if you turn someone in, take a guess who you're turning in. You're turning yourself in too. That is a whole different dynamic for a lot of people.
Well, and for these people, and because it's not this person, it's these people.
Correct.
It's about the power, right? So they're not paying you for the act. They're paying you for the power to have over you. And you are giving them an infinite amount of power over you, your life, everything else. And if you love your family, there is no price. If you love your God, there is no price. If you love yourself, there is no price. The people that they're going after, they are manipulating them and weakening them to a point where the price is what they want it to be.
Well, those people are purchasable, is your point. You are now for sale, which Cat Williams, not for sale, according to him. And I
Good on
get
him.
it. And I
Good on
hope
him.
that that is exactly the case. I agree. Good for him. But apparently all these other people, some were for sale, some were purchasable. Their silence was purchasable. And now, actually, somebody mentioned today that like they're finding tunnels underneath Diddy homes and mansions. But I mean, look, the allegations of there being tunnels underneath the Playboy Mansion forever. Yeah. So number one, don't think this is new. This is not new. The operation never shut down when the Playboy Mansion shut down. It just moved across the country. It went from LA to Miami.
And I don't think it's that it moved that time either. It just, they shut down that site and transferred to another location. And this is going to go way deeper than where we are now. We had Epstein Island, we have this. There are more people involved with all these things than we realize.
Well, now we also have Garth Brooks being accused of something close to this. Garth Brooks, there's a lawsuit filed. This has also hit the internet the day that we're recording this episode, that Garth Brooks, who this allegation has kind of been out there for a while, but now it's officially a lawsuit, has been filed claiming him or claiming that he forced himself on a makeup artist in a hotel room. And you have to start to wonder, what is the power trip, right? There's a sermon, a homily that was given that still has resonated with me and does every day. And it talks about the 4 P's that are the downfall of man: pleasure, possessions, prestige, and power. This hits multiples. It turns people into possessions. It creates prestige because you're special, and it gives you power through what? While gaining your own pleasure. This is all 4 of these things all at the same time. And that is what's really tough about this. That is what is really tough about this. Oh, I thought you were going to ring the bell, Grant. I thought I said something good. Purveyor of the bell over there.
Belated ring. I'm just insanely curious to see how this plays out, because we had a very similar situation with Epstein, where we were promised a list. We were said, who was going to be implicated, who was going to be on the list, all of this, and it just sort of fizzled out. You never really did get a good Epstein list out of this.
Well,
look, and from so many angles, when I was talking with my son, I was like, okay, the clock on this young man's life is old man now. The clock on his life has just started ticking.
I don't think it's fizzled out. I think it was buried deep. And that's what they're going to try to do to everything else, is they're going to try to bury everything as deep as they possibly can.
What's the crossover? You think there's a lot of the same actors involved?
These
in this?
people run in the same circles.
So
if you have
what would be the difference?
one of these things, you have another.
Oh yeah.
So
same network.
I'm gonna give you 2 things, and we talked about this on the show. Number one, Megyn Kelly, not too long ago, came out and said, "I believe we will hear again from Jeffrey Epstein that he is not dead." Now, this is really interesting coming from someone with the reporting gravitas of Megyn Kelly. I'm not saying she's right. I'm not saying we know, but she claims that maybe he was witness protectioned to get him out of the limelight, which we've seen WITSEC do crazy things like this in the past to make people think and disappear, make people think that they were gone. That's number one. Here's the bigger question I have. How do you think they started the Diddy investigation? Did the Epstein investigation
Was it the catalyst?
lead them to the Diddy investigation? I just have to wonder. I have nothing that says it's connected. This is for entertainment purposes only. But as you start to see these names get connected, you start to have us through the conversation of things like Pizzagate and all the things that have come to light. Because look, they will tell you, oh, all of this is conspiracy theory. It's all made up. And guess what? Now we're starting to find out, and these are allegations from an attorney right now who's looking for money, so we're going to take that for what it's worth. But man, the allegations of children being involved again and again and again and again and again is sickening. It is something that needs to be stopped. And at some point you go, is there just so much smoke that there has to be fire somewhere? You ever watch a tree burn from the inside? All you see is smoke. You don't actually see the flame. That to me is what this looks like. That is where this lies. And it's why I go, man, Look, the alleged list of people who are in videos are out there. And again, we hypothesized on this show about who might be involved. And it's all the big names that you would expect. It's every single one of them.
What's funny is some of these people are actually on TV making fun of Pizzagate, passing out pizza.
And there's the really interesting part. You know what else is interesting? That the guy who's an hour late is telling us that we got to stop for this episode. Well, not for the episode, but for this segment. He's giving me the finger from the corner. I'm going to give him the finger back. We're on video, so I'm not actually going to give him the finger, but he knows what I'm thinking. He knows what I'm thinking. You know what else I'm thinking? I'm thinking you should stick around for the final segment of hour 1 of this week's episode of Implicit Bias. Time to have even a little more fun on this week's episode of Implicit Bias. This is the final segment of hour 1. If you missed any of the show, go back on any of our socials. You can find us on X, YouTube, Facebook, Insta. Watch it, enjoy it, grab yourself a weekly whiskey, have some fun. Let me introduce you to the crew here in the Top Secret Podcast Lair very quickly. At the bar, we have K and B. His name is Grant Galatas. We have Sage Bro, who we don't have a nickname for him because we just don't particularly like him. To my right, Sage, you know I'm not kidding. Anyway, to my right, he is the man, the myth, the legend. He is Caleb Morse, the rustic renegade himself. And of course, off screen, we actually have 2 people here with us. One is Aaron David. He's making all the video happen. The other one has a microphone, which I'm beginning to regret. He is better off dead, the Implicit Bias pledge, Walker Griffon. So we've got some housekeeping to do. So thank you, Aaron David, for doing Walker Griffon's job and reminding us that we need to play What Would You Pay? For the What Would You Pay championship belt chain, which Grant is going to show you at the bar. Yes, it is literally a championship belt chain that someone will wear for the rest of the show. We are playing What Would You Pay for this bottle of Ghostwood blended bourbon whiskey coming in at 90 proof. I'm really curious because I have the receipt from our weekly whiskey partner right here in my fingers. Let's start at the bar. Who's got the mic first? We'll let y'all fight over it. Knife fight to the death. Oh, come on.
Jesus.
You let Sage win? All right, Sage, what would you pay for this Ghostwood blended bourbon whiskey?
I've played this before, and I always go over. So we're going to go $60.
$60. And going over doesn't matter. It's whoever is closest to the price point. All right, Grant, what about you? What do you think this bottle of Ghostwood blended bourbon whiskey runs?
237.
That is someone who doesn't feel like wearing the What Would You Pay championship belt
complete
chain.
transparency. As I was looking up the description, I caught a brief view of a certain price from a certain distributor. I don't want it to be tainted anyway. So I said $237.
$237. Okay.
That's my final bid, Regis.
Final bid. All right.
Good job being honest.
Let's go to Walker. Walker, what would you pay for this bottle of Ghostwood?
53 bucks.
$53. So we have $237. We have what, 60? 60 from Sage. We have 56? 53 from Walker. All right, Caleb.
I wrote down 50 earlier.
You wrote down 50. All right.
Yep.
The What Would You Pay championship belt chain will be donned by Caleb Morse. This is a $45 bottle of whiskey. So first of all, here's the really fun part of this, which is anybody surprised that this is only 45 bucks?
Oh, yes. Like, I was thinking it's got to be more, but I wanted to put 50 because this thing should be a $65, $70 bottle. It drinks really well. At $45, this is a steal.
I am going over again.
I could not agree more that this is absolutely a steal at 45. We're going to pass the What Would You Pay championship belt chain throughout the Top Secret Podcast Lair while we do this. And we're going to dive into another fun story. This one maybe doesn't have all the consequences of some of the other stories that we've covered, or maybe it does. Does anybody know who Stanley Meyer was?
Ooh, was.
Yeah.
That's a past participle.
Yes.
Just like, what? It's a past participle.
No, it's just past tense.
Past tense.
It's
Well,
not
I've
a
never
past
heard
participle.
that a day in my life.
Because a human being technically would be a noun. He is just past
yeah,
tense,
you're right.
unfortunately.
You're right.
As long as it's not
And
a
he-
dangling participle.
Yeah.
And he was past tensed. I'm trying to make that
He was past tensed.
by because of his wonderful water powered car.
So for those who don't know, Stanley Meyer created a car that ran on high-quality H2O.
Well, Bobby Boucher.
Yep. The car ran on water. And he went to patent it, and all of a sudden, he died mysteriously. Very suddenly. We're not saying that it had anything to do with him trying to patent an engine that would, put the oil and gas business out of business.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you would put water in and it would separate. It had a hydrogen separator. That way you didn't have to worry about a hydrogen fuel cell. It was very safe and very, very efficient.
Incredibly efficient, safe, and maybe the biggest thing, it was cheap. Really, really cheap to run. Well, he's potentially, as somebody commented on X, rolling over in his grave. So memetrunk.com, not Metatrunk, memetrunk.com is displaying a car that runs on a hydrogen fuel cell. It is powered by water. But here's the really cool part about this. Grant, what does this car look like? Because you got to look at this. We'll do our best to drop this video in.
It is fantastically gorgeous. It looks like a Bugatti.
A what?
A Bugatti.
A forget about it?
No.
A Bugatti? Yeah, it does, right?
Yeah.
It is, when I tell you it's beautiful, this car is fine. It's got all the latest tech. It's got everything. And this is the crazy part to me. We hear all this discussion of energy efficient. We hear all this discussion of clean energy. We hear all this discussion of we really should be doing everything we can to be good for the environment. I don't disagree. This is your answer. This is a hydrogen fuel cell. Do you know what the exhaust is? Anyone here in the Top Secret Podcast lair?
I read it. Water vapor.
Un tazo de agua.
Yeah. What?
A glass of water.
It is. It is not a glass of water. It is water vapor.
Yeah.
But it's what exists naturally on the planet.
Yep. You don't have to worry about putting out ozone. You don't have to worry about putting out carbon dioxide. Like this makes all kinds of people happy.
Vincent Kennedy is actually the person who put this out on Twitter, which made it really, really cool. Number one, the reason it won't ever see the light of day, though, is what? Anybody know?
It runs afoul of too many people in established industries that the gas industry, the petroleum industry. Yes.
Hit the bell before you somehow suicide yourself with 2 to the back of the head for saying that about this car, right?
Yeah, Caleb said that.
I mean, this thing makes sense is why, because when you look at like fuel efficiency, what we have now with fossil fuels, trains, which are diesel over electric hybrids, are phenomenally fuel efficient.
Yeah.
Work very well, massive amounts of torque. This is a hydrogen over electric hybrid. This would make great sense. Good luck getting someone who wants to have a long-term product now in today's engineered obsolescence economy.
The disposable product economy, which is where, you know what? You don't fix that dishwasher. You just buy a new one. You don't fix that car anymore. You buy a new one. There's not enough money, unfortunately, in the sustainable theft of your wallet that happens every single day with traditional fuels and even existing electric cars. Because it used to be, you can plug it into your house and it charges for virtually for free for nothing. And now what are they doing? Supercharger stations on the side of the internet charging you for what? Electricity.
Yep.
The same way gas stations are.
Well,
they
look,
will
California
not do
now,
this.
if you have an electric car, they do a surcharge on your power bill to charge your car.
Oh, so now they get to tax what was supposed to be free.
Because they're missing out on their taxes for the roads, which suck.
Think about this. This car, and this to me is the ultimate thought process. This car probably, call it $250,000.
It looks like it.
It's beautiful. It looks like it. It looks like it would cost that much or maybe even more. But here's my question. So it's hydrogen over electric, which means no oil changes, no transmission oil changes. The maintenance becomes virtually nothing on the engine. The parts that can break become significantly less. And how about this one? And you can fill it up from your water hose. And they can't really track it.
Or, you mean, after a long night of drinking, you could fill it up from your whiskey hose.
Correct. This is
The
why
ones of
this
us
will
that still
never
have those
happen.
hoses.
Wait, what's that, Sage? No, don't talk. We don't want you to talk. Anyway,
And that's what's phenomenal about this is it gives you the freedom to do it on your own. You can fill up at your house. You can do anything else. It's very simple, very easy to use. I think it's a beautiful vehicle. I would love to see this in a cost-effective vehicle. Like I would love to see this in a sub $20,000 car.
we did, and that's what happened to Stanley
Yep.
Meyer.
He tried to give freedom to the people, and then boom.
If you do the research, I believe it was either Plymouth or GM came out with a car that ran on virtually any liquid in the 60s. And what happened to it? Like they actually did a story on it and it got shelved like that. Why? Because the repeatable, consumable, profitable, long-term chain around the neck of the vehicle and its owner was gone. If it was produced, sold, purchased, and utilized en masse by the American public.
I mean, even if we wanted to use something that was currently out there, look at in South Louisiana or Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, the South, natural gas is a big product that we have. Most of our wells for inland are natural gas wells. And this is a fuel that we could use, and it's easy to transport, easy to manipulate, burns clean,
It burns 99.9% clean.
but yet you won't see a natural gas over electric hybrid.
But what you do see is really interesting that people don't talk about a lot. You see a lot of farm vehicles that have been converted
Yep.
to run on natural gas because the conversion kit isn't very expensive. It's just unsightly. It doesn't look good in your vehicle. But let me tell you, switching that over to basically something that would run on propane or natural gas becomes really, really effective
Oh yeah.
and becomes very cost efficient. It's clean for the environment. What, Grant? I see you laughing over there.
I just, it's so funny because the point you're trying to get to is the powers that be now. Everything is the Green New Deal. Everything, the amount of money that's working through our government to find more cost-effective and cleaner emissions. With something like this, how does this not gain traction?
Well, it's been out there forever. And this is how it
That's
doesn't gain
yeah.
traction, which is there's only one way that makes sense. And it's that people who are currently making money under the current system don't want it out there because they can't make enough money on it.
And
Can
they're
they
the
make
people
money?
who are,
Some.
and they're the people who are influencing our government at this point.
What do you think?
So who's in control? But hey, let me say this so I can get in trouble because Walker just threw up the finger. With industrial emissions and automobile emissions, you would think something this sustainable would give the government nocturnal emissions.
Well done.
On that note, if you are missing out on hour 2 because your market doesn't carry it, catch us on all of our socials. If you are going to get hour 2, dear Lord, that's just the beginning. It's always more fun in hour 2. Catch it next on Implicit Bias. Welcome into hour 2, the Implicit Bias pledge. Yeah, he was an hour late. An hour late for our recording. Can you believe that, Caleb?
Unfortunately, I can because I was here.
It was a good.
Waiting
It was
for
good
you.
reason. It wasn't like I was an hour late just to be an hour.
Did you
late.
hear something?
No, I didn't hear anything.
I heard something
I
that
heard
sounded like an
nothing.
excuse.
Everybody on the radio can hear me.
No,
though.
I heard nothing.
Yeah.
Maybe
No.
not y'all, but they can.
No, heard nothing. Did the guys at the bar, did y'all hear anything?
Just a ghost.
A ghost? Well, maybe Ghostwood was the first whiskey. Maybe that was the Ghostwood talking.
Maybe.
Yeah, or maybe the wood was ghosted. That's a whole nother story. All right, let's get into hour 2 of this week's episode. I am your host, Kevon Bordelon. You've met some of the cast and crew here in the Top Secret Podcast Lair, and that is crew with a K, as this particular version of the TSPL on video brought to you by Mr. Lester Steakhouse down at Cypress Bayou Casino. And we are sampling our second weekly whiskey to kick off hour 2. And actually what we are sampling, you can see at the bar. It is the offering this month at Mr. Lester's, and it's a flight. It is a flight of angels. You like that, guys? A flight of angels?
Yeah. I see what you did there.
A flight of
And it's
envious
blue.
angels. And it's a blue. There is no doubt it's a blue. So let's first of all tell you what's offered. There's the port barrel finish Angels Envy. There is the finished rye Angel's Envy, and then there is the triple oak finished Angel's Envy, which comes in at 92 proof. And I got to tell you, for a bottle that rare, because I've never seen it, it's unobtainium. I don't know that I'd ever heard of it before it showed up here in the TSPL.
I heard it whispered in the trees. But,
I was like, 92 proof? And then I tasted it. Oh, fellas, I'm going to let y'all go first. I'll let y'all start at the bar. Y'all each have a sample of this Angel's Envy triple oak cask finish. What do you think of this particular offering from Angel's Envy? Oh, Sage is going to go first.
I'm going to go first. You can smell oak.
I would hope so.
You can taste oak.
Dude, you're John Madden now. If they score more points, they're going to win.
They're going to win.
It's finished in oak barrels.
Hey,
you can taste oak.
It won. It won.
be descript, because I remember when you first started drinking bourbon, at Kavan's request or recommendation, you fell into the Stranahan's trap.
I did.
Yes.
And man, this one has a little of that Stranahan's kind of flavor to it.
I
I
think
think this is up your alley. Like, I know you can do well with this.
It is definitely up my alley. And on the back end, there's no bite. It's super sweet on the back end. And caramel, it's great. Very, very smooth. I'm very happy with this. I am now moving Deadwood down the green.
Ooh.
Oh, no, you don't get to do
So
that.
you
Can't do that?
move it.
Okay.
It's got to live in its own
It'll
silo.
stay.
Ghostwood, not
I'm sorry.
Deadwood. Deadwood's a TV show.
That's him, because he's an hour late. But yeah, this will be a blue for me as well.
All right. Grant, what do you think of this Angel's Envy triple oak finish?
I just got a hold of this one. Are y'all giving this a blue straight off the bat?
You're giving it away, but yeah, I am. Absolutely.
Yeah, like there's no
Okay.
way for me not to do that.
Yeah,
with this thing.
I'm gonna have to let this one sit. I just rinsed out my glass and just starting to taste this one, but I've never had the Angel's Envy before.
Okay.
It's really good. Let me let the flavors hit for a second, and I'll be able to tell you a little bit better.
All right. No worries. Walker,
Go to Walker.
yeah, Walker, what do you think?
Say oak.
I have to say oak.
No, he said don't say oak.
No, definitely blue. It's really good, smooth. I do get the caramel and the sweetness at the end, but no big bite on it. I like it a lot.
All right, Caleb.
I mean, on the nose, you get sweet, you get that corn sweetness that you look for. You definitely get oak. I get leather, like fresh leather, like that brand new baseball glove, brand new set of boots, and it's just so warm, so welcoming, so inviting. And then on the palate, instant caramel bomb, that deep oak, and not like an overly smoked meat or anything else where it's like, ooh, you're gonna get heartburn from this. It's a pleasurable, smoky, natural flavor.
Now that you said the meaty
Yep.
brown sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do get
Oh,
brown
yeah.
sugar on this.
Oh, yeah. And
Here-
it's just a wonderful blend of different woods, because there's 3 different kinds of oak on this. And it came out, and none of them is so overpowering that it kills the other one. It's just this really nice and pleasurable medley of flavors.
When you said leather, I kind of agree. To me, it's a very specific leather smell. If you've ever sat in old leather that has been well taken care of, that old conditioned leather where you get that fragrance, it's not musty, but it's just sweet. It's almost a sweet leather smell, a sweet leather fragrance.
Yep.
That is what I get on not just the nose of this, but also on the palate. It reminds you of that plush. All I can think of, and Grant, you're going to remember this. I think you're probably the only person in here like me old enough to remember. Rich Corinthian leather, right? Ricardo Montalban, when he would that is what I get when I taste this whiskey. It is supple, it is sweet, it is rich, it is refined, it is all of those things, and it's perfectly balanced.
This is one of those where, to me, I'm not a country club kind of guy, but this I can imagine sitting down at a country club in front of a fireplace, enjoying the end of the day where maybe we just went fox hunting or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like this is that kind of environment and flavor.
Very nice tribute to Mr. Rourke.
Mr.
I
Like,
appreciate
they
that.
playing, boss. They playing.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, that's more of the character I would have played because of the height thing, but that's a whole nother story.
Is this unobtainium, you said, Kavan?
I've never seen it on a shelf,
Really?
but at Mr. Lester's, it's available. And what I was going to actually say is this to me almost embodies that cigar lounge.
It's perfect for it.
It almost embodies the mahogany, the rich, the supple.
I don't know about you, but Grant and I are lucky that they didn't have this when we went to Mr. Lester's last time.
Yes.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Yeah, look,
But
this
look,
was- oof.
it kind of tied it together with the ghost wood, though, because running across a wheat field with the leather from your saddle while you're hunting tatonka. There it is.
yeah,
yep.
ring the bell. That was good. Ring the bell. That worked. No, I absolutely agree. This kind of makes
Oh, it's
this
perfect.
particular
This
show.
is wonderful.
It is fantastic.
But wait a second, y'all. I don't know too many 92 proof.
No.
That y'all have put into
No,
a
this
very
is-
distinct
No.
blue category. This
Normally-
this is special.
Normally, I would be like let down by this kind of proof, and I would want more of it. And look, while I think more alcohol content or higher alcohol content would be just phenomenal, this thing's so damn good.
It doesn't need
flavors.
it.
No, it doesn't.
I don't know that we have
Flavors
ever
just work.
encountered a lower proof, something under 100 proof
And-
that is this flavorful.
Normally, when you get under 100 proof, like the burn's there and you're missing something and it hits on the wrong, you have like a miss, it hits on the wrong cylinder. And I'm looking forward to trying the finished rye, but
Well, and
this is nice.
let's think about this dynamic too. The alcohol is what suspends all of the VOCs,
Yeah.
the volatile organic compounds that are in the whiskey that give you the flavor and the taste. What's crazy is this doesn't need all the alcohol to get
No,
those
to
flavors
have
and
that.
tastes out there. Like this almost rivals some of the BTACs that I've had. Some of the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection stuff, some of the Thomas Handy Sazerac Rye, some of the George D. Staggs. It's maybe not quite that, but it's really, really close. The flavor profile is just off the charts. And that Hungarian oak, I think, does a lot to do that in this particular whiskey.
It makes it very complex, very smooth, very approachable. This is one of the better ones we've had in a long time.
You see, now I thought to make it a blue for you guys, I thought just in my 4 years experience with this, in order to make it a blue, part of the higher proof was what actually put it over the goal line. So to actually taste this and sample this, and to know that the king of the high proofs and the big leather chairs, that's why they get the nicer chairs. To know that y'all can do that to one that's a lower proof, it kind of expanded the game a little bit. That's really good.
What's even more upsetting is the price point that Mr. Lester's has this at.
So it's a flight. You don't
It
get
is.
just this. I'm sure they'll sell you a pour of just this.
Yep.
But the flight, so for all three, we're not going to keep a lot of suspension. We're not going to suspend disbelief here. Actually, you might have to really figure it out. And not a lot of suspense on this either. $15. $15.
That's Renee's answer every time, and it's
Wait, forgive me.
consistent.
I think it's
That's
15 a
unbelievable.
pour, 30 a flight.
Oh, they're
Yep.
15 a pour, 30 a
15
flight
yep,
now?
15
Okay,
a
still.
pour, 30 a flight.
Just
and
still
for
obnoxious,
$30
though.
for a flight of these three.
Yeah, is just, it's obscene.
Like that doesn't make sense. You'll pay well beyond $30 for a pour of just this one.
What does that bottle run? Come on.
Like I've never seen it on
know.
a shelf.
Yeah.
I've never
So the
seen
fact
it-
that we've never seen it means that a pour should be 45 to 60
Could be.
easily. I mean for $30 for a flight of all three, you'll get this triple oak, you'll get the finished rye. I would start with the port, and maybe it's because of the person that I am. I would start with the port, that way I could wash it out with something else. And the port, this one's not bad. I'm not a port guy. I'm not a finish guy.
I think
Angels
it's
Envy's
delicious.
ports finish is not bad. It's
I think
good.
it's delicious. I've had it before.
It's a little sweet, comes at you, kind of datey, grapey. Not grapey. What's the right word I'm thinking of?
Porty.
Yeah, porty.
You know what I love? What I love about this,
Plumbing's
though,
a good one.
what I like about this is that this is an affordable flight. You know who?
Oh,
could,
it's
You know
phenomenal.
who could even afford this flight? Guy by the name of Harold Daggett. Anybody know who Harold Daggett is? Anybody know? Anybody? Come on. I think Aaron
port
knows
guy.
who. Oh, the pork
Ah.
guy.
Ah.
There we go. We
look
see
at
we're
you.
putting it all together. Congratulations, Sage. You graduated out of kindergarten.
That was a
all
great
right.
segue. That was one of the best segues we've ever had.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It happened partially by accident. Anyway, Harold Daggett could potentially afford this. I mean, the longshoreman, he has not been paid as president of the ILA, right? The Longshoreman Union. He has not been paid well, has he?
Oh, I mean, it depends on what you consider well. I mean,
Well, I mean, okay, so what would you consider to be a decent car to drive around? I mean, what are you thinking?
a decent car.
Decent car.
A decent car. I mean, I don't know. Maybe a Bentley.
Yeah, I mean, a Bentley. I mean,
Now, only when I'm slumming it.
normally, yes. I was about to say, normally that happens when we're slumming it, right? We
Yeah.
drive the Bentley,
Yeah.
right? But I guess that would be a decent car. What about a boat? I mean, what do you think? What do you guys think? Y'all have a boat? Grant, you have a boat, right? How long is the boat that you have? What size boat do you have?
Mine's good for skiing and fishing, so it's only about 18 feet.
Oh, okay,
So yours
18
would-
feet.
I wonder. I bet you Grant's boat couldn't be a tender on his boat.
Well, unless 75 feet is not considered a boat anymore. 75 feet might be considered what? A yacht.
I
A
think.
yacht.
Well, after hearing this guy talk, I bet he pronounces the ch.
Yacht.
You know, I mean, so okay, the longshoreman thing. This is obviously where we're going with
And,
this
and look, yeah,
conversation.
we all jest because I've seen Bentleys. I've never ridden in one. I
Never
don't-
ridden in a Bentley.
I
I've
don't
seen 'em.
own a boat,
But
unless
Harold-
you count my bathtub.
But Harold Daggett drives a Bentley, has a mansion in New Jersey, which makes it that much more expensive.
12,000 square feet.
I think so. Had a 75-foot yacht that I believe he just sold.
Yeah, to get a new one. Yep, to get
Apparently, his salary from the Longshoreman Union is just under what, 7 figures? It's $900,000 a year.
Hey, while we're talking about 900 grand a year, Walker, you think you could afford to propose for $900,000 a year?
Hey,
Sorry,
Kennedy, just so you know,
Yeah.
we're going to text Kennedy Walker and we're going to tell her to listen to this show
Yeah.
because she's got a surprise coming.
Yeah, that way she can be like, okay, that's how much it takes. I wanted to do that to you, just so you know.
You know what?
I know.
Walker would be a kept man just like Harold Daggett is.
Yeah.
A kept man just like Harold Daggett. But here's the funny part. The funny part is, as we record this show, the news breaks that the longshoremen strike after a solid, 2 whole days?
I don't
3 whole
think-
days?
I don't think it went just over 48. I don't think it made
Yeah.
it 72.
Yeah, today was day 3.
Is now, it's not officially over.
It's on a hiatus.
Correct. They have suspended the strike
Yeah.
for, I guess, an agreement in principle
And look, it's a very reasonable time frame.
or a temporary agreement.
It's a temporary agreement just until January.
Just until basically
Just until-
Inauguration Day,
yeah,
right?
just until inauguration's done. Just until the political playing field is calmer.
Makes you go,
And look, I want to commend the Biden Harris campaign and the executive branch right now for just stepping in and taking one for the team.
Yeah, we're going long here, Walker, just so you know, so you can take that finger and you know where it can go.
Yeah,
Because you
good to
be late,
me.
we're going to be late.
They helped negotiate this. They helped push this, and I think what they agreed to a 62% raise is on the table. It's on the board, but only until January after inauguration. So I mean, just great, good job looking out for all of us.
Well, and here's the really interesting part. So I had a conversation with somebody today, and it dawned on me. My initial reaction to the strike was this. Yeah, I'm going to stand up. The American worker should be stood up for. Corporations, I believe, have taken an awful lot of profit taking for shareholders and things like that, and they've taken it off of the back of the American worker, right? I firmly believe that. If you look at what people make today, and we've done this on the show where we ran down what a brand new Corvette cost in 1963 compared to the annual average salary per household versus what that looks like today. It's inverse. It used to be about 30% of the cost of the annual household income in the US. Today, it's almost double the cost of an annual household income for a brand new top of the line Corvette. So I'm like, yeah, some of that has come off of the American worker. And then I went, but wait a minute. These longshoremen sounds to me like it's extortion. And by the way, Daggett has apparently been in court a couple of times connected to the Italians, if you know what I mean. But to be fair, he's been acquitted of everything.
Yeah, yeah. And we're not talking like pepperoni.
No.
Or yeah.
We're not talking Mario or Luigi.
Yeah.
Right? We're not talking Chef Boyardee, right? No. That's not the Italians we're referencing. And that's when I realized, so wait a minute. If the union people are getting essentially taken by the corporations and they fight and they've got all this power to shut down the American economy, and corporations have the power to wipe out the worker's job, the only person who apparently needs 1,000 bottles of baby oil like they were attending a Diddy party is everyone else in the United States of America. It's all of us who can't do jack squat about it.
Yeah, we're just
because
stuck in limbo.
The average longshoreman, if you look at their annual salary, the average longshoreman makes between $150,000 and $300,000 a year. Now, I'm not saying they're not important. They are important. But that is well beyond the median income of people in the United States, and it's not close.
Well beyond. I mean, when you look at when I was in the service, when I left as a active duty as an E5, I was still under the poverty line. As an E5 with 5 years of active duty service, married with one child, I was under the poverty line. Came out, worked offshore, got a job 14 and 14, worked full time while I was doing 14 and 14. So that's 28 days a month. And then I joined the Guard. So I was working all but 2 days a month.
And you still weren't making $300,000 a year.
No. Even when I quit that and went work overseas, contracting for the government, wasn't making $300,000.
And please don't believe us on this. Go look it up. Those statistics are out there on the internet as to what they make. And we do need to take a break here real quick as we get really deep into hour two. But the point is this. The point is, I'm not saying longshoremen don't deserve it, but if the longshoremen can extort the corporations, when they pay for it, take a guess who they're going to pass that on to. They're going to pass that on to you and me and everybody here in the TSPL and everybody else out there. And if the longshoremen get overtaken and the corporations make too much money, take a guess who they're taking that money out of their pockets from. You, me, and everybody in the TSPL and everybody else out there, which is why you need to craft your implicit bias, all that good stuff, and stick around because we got a lot more for you this week on this week's episode. Hour two of Implicit Bias rolling on. I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon. We are trying to be hospitable, as I'm guessing the ports were trying to be to the ILA workers. I don't know.
That's nice.
Yeah, that works. I mean, they were trying to be nice. I mean, I guess a 62% pay raise through the election helps, right?
I would think that everything they offered and the base salary, I mean, it seems pretty nice.
Seems pretty nice. Let me introduce you to the crew for those who are just joining. That is the voice of Caleb Morse. Sitting at the bar, we have Grant Galatas, otherwise known as K&B, Sage Bro, who doesn't necessarily have a nickname. Walker, what are you raising your hand for? Stop watching the football game, Walker.
No, baseball game.
Stop watching the baseball game. Don't care. Don't talk about it.
Stop doing that.
Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. We're done.
No. The other
We're done.
The other one was the P. Diddy.
Dear
hand
Lord,
motion. There you
Walker.
go. That's
Oh,
the,
good
yeah.
God. Yeah. Oh. That's just bad. So bad.
That'll be stuck in your head. Like,
Yeah, why? I don't want
Yeah.
that. I don't want to see that.
Hey, at
I
least
don't
it's
wanna
not
hear
on
that.
camera.
he walked in smelling.
No, but we are.
He walked in
Yeah.
smelling like Johnson & Johnson, and now we know why. So,
Speaking of smelling like Johnson & Johnson, there was a debate right before we had this particular episode of Implicit Bias, and there seemed like they needed some baby oil. Anyway, it was bad. So we got to dive into this. And actually, before we do, because I want to put that on hold, I actually meant to finish out the ILA port worker story,
Yep.
which is this. Please, for the love of God, number one, the port worker strike is over. Thank goodness, at least for now. But number two, we are not importing toilet paper and paper towels from China. We're not. One of the largest tissue mills in the world is in Crossett, Arkansas. Why? Why, oh, why do we think that because port workers are going to stop unloading ships, we're not going to have toilet paper and paper towels.
Thanks for pronouncing the P on ship really well with that. Because,
Yes.
Yeah. And look, we said this earlier. If you haven't bought a bidet yet, like I'm a caveman, I'm a knuckle dragger. A bidet is worth its money.
Especially when you run out of toilet paper, right?
See, it's just progression of preparation. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Yeah, but it's just basically a confined water hose,
It's
which I do have attached to my house. But they were talking about this on the 5 today, and they said they were just such a ringing endorsement for a bidet.
Yeah,
It is.
Like, I mean, you feel refreshed and you're energized and you're woken up. You're done.
Look,
And you don't have to use a roll of bark.
anytime you can pressure wash the undercarriage,
Yeah. Yeah.
you just
yeah.
always feel lighter. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so is yours the ones that y'all have? Is it an attachment to your
Yeah,
existing
Yes.
toilet, or
Mine's-
is it,
yep.
or is it
Mine's
you have
not
to change the whole?
No, mine's not
Nope.
a Japanese toilet that did blow dries
No.
and all that. No, mine's
No.
I'm a motorcycle
You
rider,
laugh,
right?
but those are true.
Yeah, I'm a motorcycle rider. So throttle hand, I'm like, rap, and there I go. Like easy peasy. I can control the pressure.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with it, and it's so nice. And at the end of the day,
It's getting a lot of traction. That's all I'm saying because
Yeah.
they were talking about it on Fox News.
Actually,
today,
let me
on Fox.
correct that. It reduces
It
traction,
reduces traction.
which is why you feel better.
yeah. And look, and the beauty of this is I'm already prepared. I didn't have to go out and buy 1,000 rolls of toilet paper and all this other stuff because I'm already prepared for this.
So look, 10 years ago, if you'd have told me that I'd be saying this anywhere, much less on the radio
Never
or
in my
on
life.
podcast or on video, I'd tell you were a liar. But here's the deal. The wife and I put one in our bathroom, and when all this started to happen, she goes, Kavan, all these people are showing up at Costco and they are raiding Costco and Sam's for all the toilet paper and all the paper towels. She says, what are we going to do? I said, buy another bidet.
Yeah.
Buy another bidet, put it in, we'll get washcloths and all that good stuff. And guess what? Georgia Pacific, Kimberly Clark, I don't need you in that part of my home anymore. I still need you, but I don't need you there.
When this, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Thank y'all for not going in too much detail about an in-depth analysis of the bidet.
You can't explain it.
It's worth a shot. I'm gonna
Yeah,
say it.
worth a shot.
They got these on Amazon.
It's a spritzer.
They do.
Yeah.
I would say this. It's
Seriously.
Look, it definitely beats everything that you could potentially do to feel better when you walk out and to mitigate a toilet paper situation. It puts the term spray and pray in just a whole new light.
So you just basically you have to tap into your existing water line coming
Yeah,
into
so
the back
Yeah.
of your toilet.
Yeah, your water line is
inside
already
the
there.
tank or inside
No, no.
out
Nope.
external water
External.
line?
Where the line
Coming out of
comes
the
out,
wall.
you put a T there, and then it feeds it normally from that.
Okay,
It's
video
easy.
to follow.
Yeah, easy peasy. And whenever all this port stuff started happening, people called me, friends of mine called me, like, what should I buy? I'm like, well, first off, if now you're worried about what you're going to buy, you're behind the curve. Because you should already have ammunition, you should already have good knives, you should already have food, you should already have water. These are things you should have. The only things we bring in from other countries are fruits and some vegetables. Cherries, bananas. Down here in the South, we have...
Tea would be a big
tea's
thing down
one.
here. Coffee.
Strawberries. We have strawberries down here. Watermelons. We have these down here. Oranges in Florida. So that kind of stuff's there. It's the fruits that we don't grow locally that you want to stock up on.
The other big thing that it would have really set back is when your car would break, repair parts would have been a problem.
Yeah. And then when it comes to hunting, this is going like no matter what this is, it's going to affect hunting season because we don't produce our own gunpowder. We also don't smelt our own lead. So most of our lead and gunpowder comes from Europe. So we've had this demand going on. People have already started producing, and we've already seen the accordion effect start with ammunition production.
Here's the good news. The good news is there is a 2 to 3 day strike that has now been alleviated.
A
Could take
3-day
them
strike,
a
so it's a
couple
3
of
or
weeks
4 week.
to get back
Yep.
up to speed on supply chain and all that. So it's essentially done.
Well, we say essentially done, but when you look at the overall time frame, you're going to feel this for probably, the general consumer is going to feel it for a month, but hunters, we're going to feel it for probably 3 months, the entire hunting season.
Unless you already stocked up on all your stuff.
Which we all have. Eventually, all the rabbit holes hit an intersection and converge. Are we that reliant on China and other countries for everything? Are we that crippled by
Well, we
having
have-
100,000 ships offshore?
We've been that
that we should exactly. My only point. That's a frightening concept.
This-
I didn't mean to open up
No, that's okay.
It wasn't on topic, but
This started.
This is really scary.
This started with NAFTA a long, long time ago.
North Atlantic Free Trade Association.
Yep.
Okay.
Which started basically shipping manufacturing jobs outside of the United States. And what it allowed wasn't just, it did allow for cheaper prices for consumers in the US. I'm not going to say it didn't, but what it also allowed for was the erosion of the US wage. And here's why. Because it took those manufacturing jobs, those important jobs, those good paying jobs, those long-term jobs, and it sent them to a place where the cost of labor was nothing. So it changed our economy fundamentally, which is why we have to get back to US manufacturing. What it really would have hurt was US pharmaceuticals, because we accept a lot of pharmaceuticals that are produced outside of the United States.
The vast majority. I mean,
Yeah.
talking 90 in the 90 percentile.
Yeah, so I
correct?
mean, there was a lot that needed to
That's
be.
what scares me.
It's frightening.
And these people aren't exactly our friends. So if they decided
far
to put
from
the chokehold on us from that, with all, it's unsustainable.
It absolutely is, which is why we have to go back. Which is why the vice presidential debate was so important. So here's takeaways from the vice presidential debate. I'm curious. I'd like to go around. I don't know who saw what. What I'd like to ask is, who here on the crew, number one, how much of it did you see? Number two, what was your key takeaway? Walker, are you giving me the finger over there?
Yeah, but you can go long. A little long.
Walker, I can go as long as I want, brother. But we're gonna
gonna
take
make the
the
other
break.
2 segments
We're
real
gonna
short.
we're gonna take the break here. You knew what I meant. We're gonna take the break here. We're gonna come back. We're gonna go deep into the vice presidential debate. We're gonna go as long as we want, Walker, and we're gonna continue to round out your implicit bias. The penultimate segment of this week's episode of Implicit Bias. We're probably not late on your radio, but so you know, it's getting a little late here in the Mr. Lester's top secret podcast lair because Better Off Dead showed up an hour late. Thank you to the Implicit Bias Pledge. We appreciate you.
No problem. It was work related, so it wasn't just me messing off.
No, we know that. And you knew we were going to give you garbage about it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, did you expect to come in here and be like, oh, it's all roses?
No.
No.
No, absolutely not. When I kept looking at the clock, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get some backlash for this.
You mean the clock and all the text messages weren't a clue?
yeah.
Gonna have
Well, I have my
such a great night.
Yeah, you knew
phone
you knew it
face
wasn't
down.
going to be all roses because you know Caleb doesn't have a bidet here at the Top Secret
Yeah.
Podcast lair. Yep. Speaking of rosebuds. Anyway, so let's go ahead and go back down the rabbit hole that we were talking about, which was the vice presidential debate that happened earlier this week, which it's amazing how many things have basically been memory hold in the last few months. You have to remember, we had not one, but 2 attempts on a presidential candidate's life, and we seem to have forgotten about it. We now have not one, but 2 presidential debates, which really everyone has forgotten about the first because one of the candidates in that debate is Kaiser Soze and is gone and has turned into Kamala Harris, where we had one debate there. And I love that one candidate's like, I don't want another debate. I don't need another debate. We're good. But we did need a vice presidential debate, which is exactly what we got between J.D. Vance and we got between Tim Walz. So let's start at the bar. At the bar, who's going to go first? Number one, how much of it did you see? And number two, what were your impressions from the debate?
Watch the entire debate from start to finish.
So K and B is in from the whole thing.
It was a must watch.
Okay.
You have to watch. After the first debate, it was something that we were so. I wish they would have had the VP debate before the presidential debate, because it would have given Trump a textbook playbook of how to sit in an environment where it's 3 people on one, conduct yourself, compose yourself, give rational, calm, responsive answers while being just completely concise with your answers. So the first thing I took away from it was that, because it was cordial. It's like a major league game. You don't think you're going to see the kind of stuff you're going to see, but the thing I took away from it, and I couldn't wait to get to this response, was The Democratic side of the aisle says that Trump is such a threat to democracy. And J.D. Vance danced around the rim to this question and said, look, and even to the point where Walt said, I'm not in charge of Facebook. Okay.
I know where you're going with
very
this.
most important freedom in this country is your freedom of speech. Okay. And in the very first election, and now in this election, Mark Zuckerberg has come out and said, what they did was they sent me letters and they told me to suppress any conservative point of views on Facebook.
Please don't believe us on that. Go look that up.
Classic
Please.
textbook election interference. The Democrats are screaming from the hills, no election interference. And Trump is the biggest threat to democracy, but the biggest threat to democracy is when you take one side's political position and suppress it. COVID information, suppressed.
Laptop information.
Laptop,
Suppressed.
Hunter Biden laptop, suppressed before the last election.
Yeah.
Well, Grant, if you ask him, that's not censorship.
Oh yeah, that's just they're taking care of misinformation.
Yeah,
is
that's all it
the
is.
way they frame it. So Mark Zuckerberg, it surprised me so much that he sent a letter to Jordan and
Yep.
Comer
Yep.
and said,
To
I
Congress.
received undue amounts of pressure to suppress conservative opinions before the last election. How much more evidence do you need for election interference than that? And what's become of that? And J.D. Vance danced around he danced around it, and he said, but nobody pays any attention to that. How do you?
He didn't. So let's be honest. He didn't tap dance around it. He tap danced on the grave of Tim Walz with that answer, because that is
did,
where he went.
But
with
if
it.
he had, if he had said Mark Zuckerberg,
He didn't-
submitted a letter to Jim Jordan and Comer and said, I received pressure before the last election. He had basically just admitted that it was election interference.
Here's what you're missing, though. Here's what
Plain
you're
and
missing.
simple.
What you're missing is that Tim Walz admitted it, because Vance never said Facebook. He never said they did it. And what did Walz say? Walz said, I don't run Facebook. And if his response would have been, I never mentioned Facebook.
Exactly.
If his response would have been, I didn't mention that.
Yeah.
How do you know that that's the answer? Because they know.
And
Walz knows.
And if I was at the point of dry heaving, today when they said that Adam Schiff has now released a statement saying we want to be sure that our social media platforms are going to be well on top of misinformation and disinformation for this election period. Adam Schiff was the sole author of the Russian collusion. For 3.5 years of Trump's first administration, Russia collusion, which was proved false and laid in the lap of Hillary Clinton. And now this bonehead is going to come out at this point and say, we want to be sure that the social media platforms are going to be aware of misinformation and disinformation.
Here's the best. Here's the best part of that.
The hypocrisy in that. Look, I dry heaved.
I know.
I
but
did.
here's,
I did the Jim Carrey dry heave
here's the
in my
best.
day.
Here's the best part. And I'm glad we're on video so people could see that. Here's the best part. The best part is this. The best part is that it's the only play they know how to run. They are running the same play over and over and over. And not just you, but people all around the country, people out there listening to this conversation, people out there involved in this conversation, they all see it. All right, let's go to somebody else. Sage, you want to chime in? Did you see it?
Yeah. I'm going to go
Well,
a
look,
little
here-
too far into it. Y'all
Here,
good?
I'll
Okay,
lead,
we'll
I'll
go-
lead you into this, okay? Whenever Governor Walz
Let's get
was-
him in trouble.
Yeah. Whenever Governor Walz was talking about this and he's discussing his service. Look, this man was correct me if I'm wrong, he was a sergeant major in the National Guard.
That's what he says he was.
That's what he says he was. It's not what his DD-214 says he was. But so according to him, his National Guard service, he was a pillar of the community and so forth. And look, I was active duty, went back in the National Guard. And man, my National Guard service, it tested my patriotism and tested my dedication to my service, because there are some people in active duty and in guard service that serve no place in our military. They don't. Like, they are just worthless human beings. Now, they're a small percentage, but it is much easier for them to hide, I feel, in the National Guard. And someone like Tim Walz can get to the rank he was by being well hidden.
Whatever rank it actually was.
Yeah, I believe he was a master sergeant or sergeant first class. I'm sorry, a master sergeant or a first sergeant, not a sergeant major. He was on the board as promotable to that rank. Now, what happened after that, I don't know. I didn't dig into it. You can Google his DD-214 and find out everything you want about him. But it's easier for that to happen in the National Guard, I find, than active duty, because I saw a lot of it happen. And as a soldier in the National Guard, Sage, do you think that someone like Governor Tim Walz would flourish there because he could be hidden, or do you think this is someone that is really worthy of being the vice president?
Oh, it's definitely hidden and a whole bunch of pencil pushing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that's greatly used in that stage. Yeah, I was in for 8 years and served to the best of my ability and didn't need much of a pencil to push anything. So, yeah, no, I think it was definitely hidden.
So real quick, thanks to all our vets out there. Thanks to the vets here in the room who've actually served, put your life on the line so that we can do things like this, so that we can have these conversations, so that we can sip weekly whiskeys and have the American way of life.
We all serve in our own way, right? Whether you raise your right hand and don the uniform, or you pay your taxes and you do your part and you're a wonderful parent and you just strive to make the world a better place. We all serve our nation in one way or another. Some people do that by hiding and cowering.
Well, here's my problem with regards to how you serve and then how you claim honor for your service. I'll be the first one to tell you I never served. Be the first one to tell you I admire those who did, and I'm very thankful. But I'm not going to go out there and say, well, I thought about serving. That means I was, for all intents and purposes, a combat vet, right? Much like I'm not going to go out there and say, oh, I was in Tiananmen Square when this happened. They asked him on camera.
Yep.
And we're going long here, Walker, because the last segment's going to be fun. But they asked him on camera, you said you were in Tiananmen Square or you were in China when this happened, and they put together that he wasn't. And he could not say, you know what, I just misspoke. What did he say? He talked around it, he danced, he didn't answer, and then they pressed him on it, and he goes, oh, I blah, 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 blah. Meaning, I'm going to lie about that and hope you don't catch it. I'm going to lie about other stuff and hope you don't catch that too. I'm going to lie about all this stuff, and guess what? He then lied about the law in his state with regards to abortion when he was called on it and said, that's not the truth. And this is what really bothered me. And this is where we're going to get on a little bit of a roll.
He's the one who signed it.
Right? He signed it. And on top of that, J.D. Vance not only had to debate him, J.D. Vance had to debate a moderator whose husband is a massive donor to one particular side of the aisle. And this is how the media works, and this is what ticks me off. Everyone agreed, the Republican candidate, the Democrat candidate, and the media, CBS, agreed to not fact check in the moment. And then what's the first damn thing that happens?
Yep.
CBS attempts to fact check one side and doesn't give all of the facts. And credit to J.D. Vance, because he did it calm, cool, collected, and he did it thoroughly. He explained it to the American public. And CBS, you want to know why people think less of the media than they think of Congress? It's because of you. It's because of what you did in the debate. It's because of how you behave. And it's because of the fact that you take a side and you claim not to take a side. You are not the story. You are there to ask the freaking questions and accept the answers. Period, full stop. And then give the other side an opportunity to respond. Instead, you pick a side, you claim that you don't, and then you want to get upset when people call you on it. Boo freaking who? This is our implicit bias. Stick around for the last segment. Final segment of this week's episode of Implicit Bias. I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon. Thanks for being with us. We hope you've enjoyed the last, hour and 50-ish minutes in the Top Secret podcast. If you didn't catch all of it, just find us on our socials. Find us on X, find us on Facebook, YouTube, Insta, anywhere you get your podcasts. You can find us on radio, NOLA in New Orleans, right? WGSO in Lafayette, 96.5 KPEL. You can find us in Monroe, KMLB. You can find us in Vidalia. You can find us in Natchez. We hope that you are really feeling comfortable and welcome, whether you agree with us or not. We'd love to sit down and have the conversation with you over a couple of weekly whiskeys. And we always try to round out with some stuff that is fun yet serious all at the same time. And this one, fellas, this is it. I've identified and told my wife what I want for Christmas.
Good choice.
Go to www.throwflame.com. Yes, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The X15 flamethrower, it's what Kavan wants for Christmas.
And look, I sell flamethrowers. This is a big boy.
This looks like a full-on, it looks military grade. It's not meant for that.
But it doesn't need to be enough. Like, you can put diesel, everything. Like, this thing is fun.
Okay, I'm going to say this before we go to the bar because I want to hear what the bar has to say about this. My favorite part of the description as you go down the webpage. So first of all, you can get the CO2 pressure regulator for it, which regulates your pressure. But the best part is it shows in features a 3.3 gallon tank, a 50-foot range. You don't have to worry about the port workers messing it up because it's made in the USA.
That's right.
But perhaps the best, it's napalm ready, baby. Are you serious? I mean, that's not a joke. It is napalm ready. All right, I'm curious as to what the bar thinks of this. Grant?
Is this kind of an offshoot of what Elon did?
No.
Because remember...
No, he had the not a flamethrower, and then you have thermobaric, which are the ones that we sell.
Yeah, but he sold everything very quickly.
Yeah,
so did somebody hear that and go, yeah, I got to
so
do this.
the other ones were out beforehand. The exothermics, the ones like that we sell, the XM42s, and they have a small reservoir. This is a big one. The not a flamethrower was even smaller. It was like a big super soaker on steroids.
Yeah. It was a super soaker with fire.
The ones we do, they're high pressure fuel pumps that spray diesel, which works really. Oh, don't put gasoline. Diesel works really well in that. This thing is a massive reservoir, and look, we've used ours to start fires, to clear brush, apple snails, which are a really big deal down here. If you don't know what those are, they suck. Apple snails. This works great for apple snails. But this thing, man, this is like big.
If you wanted to get land in Hawaii at a really cheap rate, this might help you get that started. Just say it.
Unless they have a blue roof.
Unless they have a blue roof, correct. Yeah. All right, Sage, this is one thing that I do know. If I would have this, I would need more insurance. I would need more insurance because I would get myself in trouble with this. Because I would use this. Now, for those of you who don't know what USCCA is, it is actually insurance for those who concealed carry. Sage, why is it important for somebody to have insurance on that? Like, you think the only reason I would ever use it is if it's in self-defense, but self-defense gets expensive, right?
It gets very expensive. So USCCA is the United States Concealed Carry Association. There's a product that's offered that's education, training, and a self-defense liability insurance policy attached to that access. If you guys want to hear more about that, please give me a call or text me or whatever at 337-886-8886. I'm in sales. It works.
Yeah.
Or sage.b@deltadefense.com. I mean, we can go on and on about this conversation, but flamethrowers, I've never thought that would be used as a self-defense tactic, but hey, it can be.
Oh, it absolutely can.
If it's all you have and you're in the barn or you're doing something else, or maybe you're clearing brush and you get attacked by a person, a dog, whatever it might be, an alien, it's 2024.
It is. Yeah.
This is something you
demon.
can use, demon too.
Yeah.
And then what's beautiful about y'all, even though y'all have concealed carry, you think a firearm, y'all cover multiple forms of self-defense.
Yeah. Any covered act of self-defense, I mean, as long as you're not like out there maliciously murdering anybody with this thing,
well, like you said, any form of self-defense. I mean, it's kind of a complete statement. If you are actually defending yourself, you might want to have it because, I mean, what's the average cost? If somebody gets involved in something where they're defending themselves, Sage, is there an average cost to this? I mean, this sounds nuts.
I mean, to start off with all of the education and the training, all of the benefits, you're starting off at $49.
No. I'm not talking about the average cost of
you're
USCCA.
talking about. Oh, yeah, no.
I had to defend myself.
Let's say best case scenario, not base case. Best case scenario in the state of Louisiana are around, you're looking at $200K plus.
Yeah, I mean, and when we talk about self-defense, I tell people all the time, if you're in your vehicle and someone is blocking traffic, look, you can push through. You're fine at a slow and reasonable pace. Skinny pedal, go fast. Don't try to reach for the gun. You have a 3, 4, 5,000 pound vehicle. Skinny pedal, go fast. Push that through. All that kind of stuff. Like my shop, the Rustic Renegade, we provide membership to everyone who works for us because it's what I think is we need. And before you worked at the USCCA, you were there with us and you had a policy through us at that point. I mean, I believe in the product. I believe in what y'all do because, unfortunately, you're going to get sued.
No matter how you defend yourself, it's going to cost you. Not only do you have to live with what happens, with whatever you do to defend yourself and you make it through that situation, which is a burden in itself, but the financial burden that it puts on your family, it puts on your friends, it puts on you is, at $250, who's got an extra $250,000?
Well, and I had the pleasure of going up to their headquarters in West Bend and met the response team. I don't remember the guy's name right now.
Was it Benjamin Funk?
Yes, it was.
Really cool dude.
Yeah, I got to meet him and talk to him about how they handled phone calls, how they handle responses. And, I mean, it's a passion to help people in this horrible time of their life whenever they need someone to help save them.
Yeah, and the job that I have is really awesome because I get to go into these concealed carry classes or defensive shooting fundamentals classes or whatever kind of class it is with firearms included, or just use of force classes. Like I've been teaching these classes to church security and even real estate agencies around the around where we are right now. We're able to offer more. I'm able to give help to the people that are gonna need it in the future, and it's damn sure helping.
I mean, it really is because you're not alone.
And guess what? You are not alone either. If you get a flamethrower, trust me, I'll be there. I'll be your friend. You get an X15, just include me. You get a weekly whiskey, I'm there too, as was pretty much anybody on the crew. But that's going to happen next week because Walker's given us the finger, and this is the final segment of this week's episode. So we hope that you have an opportunity to sit down, have a weekly whiskey of your own, enjoy solving the problems of the world, and we will see you in 7.